So today I'm here with Thomas, who has been a long-time supporter of Real Social Dynamics. He's done 4 boot camps over the last 10 years. Now he's married. He's gone from living in Mexico to meeting a beautiful woman, and she was attending an Ivy League university in New York called Columbia. And now he's a subscriber to my YouTube channel, reached out to me and said he wanted to do an interview. So Thomas, thanks so much for setting up this interview, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Well, it's a pleasure to be talking with you, Nick, and finally get to meeting you after 10 years. And yeah, well, my first question is very simple. What did you eat for breakfast?
So
I'm very much into health and fitness, and I'm just curious about it.
I'm not an expert in health and fitness either, but I'm meeting this weekend with Brandon Carr to go over a health budget and diet plan for myself. He's an expert. I'd recommend him on YouTube as well. But my typical breakfast I like to do is go down to the country club where I play golf. I play golf in the morning. Right before I play golf, I'll have the same breakfast, which is some eggs, some sausage links, and some fresh fruit with a glass of cranberry juice and water.
Okay, sounds nice, sounds nice. Okay, so let's go to the real question. I saw in your videos that during the recession in 2009, you actually went bankrupt. And I know that's a very, I know people, I know family of myself that live in the US and went bankrupt as well. And that's like a really, really bad thing. So nowadays, with all that experience, what kind of precautions you take for yourself and your company, knowing that this recession can come again anytime and we don't really know when?
That's a good point, because I believe that the recession could occur in the next year. It typically happens every 10 years, and now is the time that's supposed to happen, more or less, sometime in the next 12 months. We were at the point where we were unofficially bankrupt. We never declared bankruptcy, but we had no cash flow. In fact, we were negative $500,000 in credit. So we basically had $500,000 in credit on credit cards, and I had to figure out a way to pay that off. So I organized the free tour where I went around the world and I got out of that. Now today, we have very different mechanisms because the company is way bigger, multiple times bigger than it was in the past.
Yeah, sure.
And also, we don't have the same access to that kind of credit card. We don't have massive credit debt. And the way we've structured things and done budget allocations is very, very different. We have our entire company divided among different budgets for different companies. In fact, the company, which used to be just one corporate entity, is now divided into split corporate divisions and corporate business lines, and also separate bank accounts. So that each business bank account is attached to a certain product line for a certain budget. On top of that, I think the biggest thing that hit us was the fact that we grew too fast. We were in that same year where the recession hit, listed on Inc. magazine's fastest growing companies in America. And it was the same year that we also had no money because we were just growing so fast. Now, as opposed to that standpoint where we were known for having grown, I think it was 7 or 8 times the size of our original company over the period of, I think, like 2 to 4 years. Now we're just trying to get 2x growth, which is the equivalent of saying that our goal is to try to grow at 20% year to year. So we're not trying to hit that hyper growth. People who try to hit that hyper growth are usually in tech companies where they are leveraging themselves and the amount of debt they're acquiring is way more. The whole term of being bankrupt, that is leveraged in the millions of dollars until they could eventually monetize and get money of any kind. And so our company is much more in the kind of company that kind of grows itself, funds itself and grows. And as a result of that, when we do grow, most of that is through labor of very slow, controlled growth. And so we have to justify it with revenues. And we talk about whether we should bring people on as a board, as a team, before we do that. Because the thing that is the most expensive thing in our company is our people, our payroll. We invest so much on the service side as we're a service-based company. Other people, they'd be investing in a widget or a gadget, and that growth is something that we try to avoid. We also restructured a lot of how we finance things too. So whereas in the past when we were doing boot camps, most of our clients put down a $500 deposit. Now most of our clients, they pay the entire thing up front. And that also has dramatically changed how we do business. On top of that also, back in the day when we were in that situation, we were traveling around the world teaching boot camps where you'll have maybe 1 client, 2 clients, or 3 clients for boot camp. And now instead of just doing a boot camp when we travel to a city, we'll do that. Plus we'll have an event called the Hot Seat, a large group seminar. It's $300 and you could have 100 people doing that. And that'll not only fund the trip, but that'll create profits. And then we'll also have an event called the Free Tour where we'll sell the Hot Seat and also other programs. Because now, as opposed to back when the recession hit where we had 5 DVD, CD courses. Now we have 18 programs and we get a new one almost every month.
Okay, so you diversified your products, so some are more affordable than others. So
yeah.
Is that right?
When we first created this company, the first 4 years of our company, the only product we had to sell was the $2,000 boot camp. Now we also have a flexible pricing schedule, so for those cities that make it really difficult, like if I wanted to travel to, say, Cape Town, South Africa, the program is actually $3,000. So we adjust for the cost of what's going to be for our boot camps so we can make sure that our programs are always keeping us in the right price point. And I think that is something that took a lot of experience and time to model. And also the intricacies of scale help us immensely. So it is in the past where we would travel our instructors from one city. We would now have a team of people that go with that instructors, and they would help them with marketing and sales and technology. He'd be creating products, creating videos, marketing materials, and they travel kind of like an entourage with a rock band. You know, last night I was hanging out with Lincoln Park in Los Angeles, and they have a team of people that travel with them from marketing to sales to IT. They have their travel coordinator. Now, our team has the same kind of support, and we also have videos and what have you, and their schedules are managed by a corporate team. So we have the fact that we have so many live events around the world. We can model a lot of other successful companies that aren't in exactly the same kind of business line, but we can model what they're doing successfully and integrate it to our own business.
Okay. So, but I see that you have like a flat pricing rate for any country in the world. So, I mean, if you do like I don't know, a boot camp in Norway, that's going to be very cheap over there. But if you do it in Thailand, that comes as very expensive. So you never thought of like adjusting the prices according to the place where you are?
Well, that's what I was saying. So if you go to a place in Asia or Africa, the program is actually $3,000. It's no longer $2,000 around the world. It is actually adjusted. Same thing goes for Latin America. Our pricing is different by region. So if you go to our schedule, it's not all $2,000. Also, certain instructors, they have more staff. So for example, Tyler, when he travels, he'll travel with a team. He might have 5, 10, 15 people traveling with him. And as a result, his programs are $3,000 as opposed to $2,000. And on top of that, we have a program where guys are traveling in a region, like let's say they're from America, they want to travel to Asia. We now have them go on tour to different places within that region. So if they're going to Thailand, they're going to do a program in Bangkok. They might do a program in one of the islands, but they're probably also going to do programs to make it affordable that are nearby with cheap airfare. For example, Hong Kong or Tokyo or KL.
Okay. So the question I have, I'm very curious about this one, is like when you're creating a new company from scratch, what's the indispensable team you need? Like maybe an accountant, marketing expert, like what would be like the minimal team you would need and that is indispensable?
I would put accountants and administrative people at the bottom, because the most important thing when you need a company that you want to start from scratch to be successful is to have the creative talent. The creative talents are the people that are creating your product and service. They're the people that's going to make sure what you're creating is going to be innovative and what customers want. And more than anything else, that's the most important thing. You also need to be a manager. You need to be the person who is in charge of making sure everything is going to flow right. But at the same time, the most important thing is to create a creative team. For example, right now, I'm creating a musical. I'm hoping to put it on Broadway. I'm getting a team together of creative talent, of people who are in music, dance, story, in terms of scripts, experts in what they do. And I want to make sure that they trial out working with each other so I can find out who's going to be the most important key players, who I'm going to keep and who I'm not. Because I haven't locked down everyone that I want to put down this creative team. I want to make sure everyone works together first. What you do is you feel it out there. Just try to get indications of interest of who wants to work with each other and who's really passionate and who you think is going to work well with each other. And also, in addition to the talent, you need to make sure that these are people that will be creating the overall product that you want to create. Because more than anything else, you have to make sure that your product and service is super awesome. Now, the minimum before you launch a product out there is to create an awesome creative team. When we created Real Social Dynamics, another example, we didn't have anyone in administration. All we had is 3 people, me, Tyler, and one other person. Now, the third person was going to be a creator of some kind. We had a guy named Ben, and then we had, when Ben took time off, he didn't want to continue, we had another guy named Eric. And then when Eric didn't want to continue, we had another guy named Mike. And when Mike wasn't available, we had another guy named Steve. And we always had like 3 people because we want to have 3 people on our creative team to help us create a curriculum for our live programs. That was a great way to do things, and it worked really well for us. And then as we started getting scale, we started getting customers, then we started hiring people who were doing sales and marketing and stuff like that. A lot of companies, what they like to do is they like to put basically the product together first, then they market the hell out of it, engage interest, and then they start selling that product and making money from it. I prefer that instead of doing that is to first create an awesome product, see what people like of the product and service by trying it out to a small group, and then only after that product's been perfected that you start hiring the administrative people like marketing and sales and growing it, or else you're going to spend too much money and burn too much money too fast.
Yeah, sure. And how would you split your budget in the beginning? Where would you put most of your money?
The typical company, if you want to say a general company, because companies are very different, but the overall general generic way a company is structured is that you try to structure, when you first start off, a situation where the executive board members like yourself are making about 10% of your overall budget plan. So if you're planning to have an administrative fee so you could survive, which is recommended by Vern Harnish, who created Gazelle as a marketing and business company. No matter what, even if your company is struggling, try to designate 10% of your budget for yourself so that you have enough money to survive. Now, a third of your company is usually put into your general administration. A third of your company budget is usually put into your product, service, and innovation. And then whatever is left, which is usually about 23%, that is what you'll be putting into the things that are more related not just to the administration, not to the creative side, but to your team that is, so when I say, let me separate things for a second, okay? So if 10% is in your budget for your business and boardship, that's basically for your service in terms of management. If a third of it's on payroll, and I'm saying general business administration, that includes things like marketing, finance, accounting, sales, stuff like that. A third of it into the research in product and development, and then 23% of it is going to be put into those things that are the miscellaneous things that you have to prepare yourself for that you don't account for. For example, random things will happen in terms of legal, in terms of more product expenses than you expect it's going to be, in terms of, say, travel expenses that are unexpected or venues or what have you. But you have to have that ancillary budget prepared for that. This is a starter guide. This is like a very general starter kit, though. And not all companies are going to follow that. But that's what I try to do.
And let's say you have a very good idea and you have a good product, but you need funding. How would you go about finding investors?
Okay. So Real Social Dynamics doesn't have any investors, but I will say I do have experience, So when I was working with Steven Steiner. I did an interview with him on my YouTube channel if you wanted to see it. And he has a company called Aerogel. And before it turned into a corporation, it was an independent organization that wasn't doing anything for money. As a result, it didn't have any incoming money. So I had to raise, several $100,000 for this project, which was a NASA-funded project. And so I had to go to different universities and corporations and approach them. And I pitched them about how them being a part of this would be good for them. Now I was focusing on outreach because everyone wants to be associated with the cool science project, young people. When NASA's involved, that's really cool. And we also had an outreach plan that was good for them. Sponsors love that kind of stuff. Other people I know who are friends of mine, like Brent Casco. You know, he had a company called Team Archon. Now it's Team NRG. And he's raised millions of dollars by approaching sponsors and showing the web traffic from people who are playing professional video games. They're called esports athletes. On the other hand, a lot of what I've done in the past was also potentially for real social dynamics. I didn't necessarily follow through, but I raised $1.6 million to acquire property in Las Vegas for a program we offer called Vegas Immersion, where people could live in Vegas and they could go out every night. It's a boot camp all year round, but it's not as individualized. It's more a group environment as a mastermind. Awesome program. Our original game plan, though, was to own the real estate that these participants were in. So I raised $1.6 million to buy property so that our clients would have a place to stay. We were looking at hotels, we were looking at mansions, and I ended up buying my own property with my own money, not taking any investor money. But I just lived there myself, and I have my team. They come here, they visit. Some of them will stay here. A lot of my friends and family will come visit, they'll stay here. But it's not where our clients are. Now, I approach these people as someone who they could trust by saying, hey, I will pay you a certain rate of investment back. It's not an investment either, it'll be a bridge loan. So the difference between a bridge loan and an investment is with a bridge loan, I'll be paying an interest that's much like 2%, 3%, maybe as high as 5%. But it's not where just an investment where they get royalties. So you could say that they invested in my company, they get a percentage of the profits. I didn't want that. I wanted to control the profits myself.
Right now, I mean, as I told you, my biggest hobby is health and fitness since I was a kid. And I acquired a certificate in this field, and I started to run marathons and do a lot of things. And then I started to coach people, and then I didn't have some people that pay me to build them like fitness plans. And I started this merely as a hobby, but I like it a lot. So I'm thinking about doing something where I can make money out of it, but I want to do it online. And so I wanted to, maybe have your insight on this, on like, what suggestions you have on how to monetize something like this online?
The easiest thing you got to do when you're looking at your products and services to do a SWOT analysis, which is you're analyzing your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, sure. Right? So you're gonna have to look at what your competitors are doing and the complementary businesses are doing already. Mm-hmm. So when you are looking at them, you should look at what their products are, look at their website, look at their sales materials, maybe even take their products and services, participate in their programs, see what it's like, see where you see room for improvement. But more than anything else, it's not necessarily just about you, it's also what other people are looking for. So look at the online forums, see what people feel like they're missing, how you could fulfill that need with your product and service. Because when you craft your product, you'll have an idea of how you envision things. It's a rough outline. Yeah. But you have to adjust that outline and treat it with having the input of other people, of what they're asking for, what they're looking for, and try to fulfill that need. And then after that, you'll have a product and service. And then what you got to do is create a program and do a test run, a small one. Put it out there and try your product and service. You can't really do that with things like airplane companies or capital-intensive companies, but yours is not.
Of course. Yeah, it's not capital-intensive, but there's a lot of this out there. There's a lot of competition. So I guess creativity will be like a major factor for success.
Well, you got to find a competitive advantage that people are not doing that's going to make you unique and powerful and is a benefit to them that will improve their lives for the better. And you got to do it in an amazing way, like way better than everyone else. Most companies, they try to just get into the business to kind of run their business like a dry cleaning company or a maid service, where they just want to earn a living. People call that a freedom business because they feel like they're working for themselves when all opportunity is that they have is really just, being self-employed, but it's the same as working for somebody else. Just that you're working, instead of for one person, you're working for your customers, and you're working really hard. Now, if you're working a freedom business like that, then yeah, you could just do that. But if you want to create a company that scales, you need a service that you built that you believe is going to be number 1, 2, or 3 in your industry, and that you think that the product and service is that good, and then build a team around that that believes in you. Jack Welch, who created an amazing company, he said, be number 1, 2, or 3, or get out of the business altogether, because he didn't want to create a company that was like one of those freedom businesses.
Okay, so actually one of my next questions was, what would you rather hire? If you have someone, if you can hire one person, if you have someone who's really skilled at something you need, versus someone who probably doesn't have all the skills, but is really loyal and really understands your vision and missions and believes in it.
The most important thing that I look for team members is their attitude. Is like a positive attitude. Is it somebody that I'd like to work with? Because they could learn almost anything. I don't need to hire people that are the best in the world and are known for being the best in the world at what they do. They're going to be too expensive. I'd rather train someone from the bottom up and make them awesome. However, I'm at a point where I have funds where I could afford some of the best people in the world to work for me, vendors and partners of other kind. So we're very different. We can do both. However, if you're looking at building a company from the very beginning and you're working with limited budget, the best thing you could do is find hardworking people, the hardworking mindset. They're going to put in the time, the massive amount of time it takes to take a company off the ground and also to grow it, and who want to continue that pace, but who have a positive attitude, are easygoing, and you're able to work with them.
Okay. Then, let me check my question. Oh yeah, there's something I was wanted to ask someone actually. Like when you meet someone who doesn't understand what RSD is, like real social dynamics, he doesn't understand the concept and may even have like negative preconceptions about going out and dating or coaching someone into becoming better at dating. Like, how would you explain somebody like that what you do and why is it good? Or
Sure. Well, I have many friends that will recommend Real Social Dynamics to their friends, and that gives a lot of credibility. They'll say, look, this is an amazing program. They changed a lot of lives. You gain all these skill sets. You can just describe how unique it is. You actually have guys who are really good at what they are doing in terms of picking up girls, social interactions, networking. And also, I would focus on the fact that the skills that we teach not only apply to pickup, they apply to your business life, your social life, your lifestyle overall. They can open doors in so many different ways. I mean, I created this YouTube channel to show that. Now, a lot of people's ego is tied to dating because people will think that when you're recommending a dating product and you're a friend of theirs, it's probably because you believe that they're lacking in their lives on a personal level. They're somewhat inferior. A lot of men view their success as a human as their success in their dating life for some reason, even though that's not true. And as a result of that, you have to be sensitive to that concern, and you can focus on how these skills will help them in other areas of their life, make them more money in business, make them more social people, give them an overall success mindset, have a better networking opportunity, and also the pickup. And as a result of that, that makes it a lot easier to sell and also a lot easier for them to eat.
Yeah, I understand. I asked you that because in the past, I would like tell friends, look, this cool thing, but they were like, you're crazy. I don't need that. And, there's a lot of this negativity. They would rather like follow it once I showed them something. That was pretty much the only way, or if they found out through another way and then they knew what it is about. But I found a lot of negativity in that, and also like in a professional environment, you cannot really talk about these things because there are a lot of misconceptions or people that just want to use any kind of information against you. That's why I was actually asking you this question.
Yeah, so a lot of people will have negative conceptions about pickup because they view pickup from what pickup is known for, which was a book, and it was talking about manipulative, like canned routines and lines, or what people call button pushing pickup. And people thought they could get great success from that, and some people do, but it's not necessarily the button pushing that works. It's mostly the fact that they're out there and they're just in the field and people will be attracted to their personality. And the idea of button pushing is really just the idea of them creating a personality. It's a fake persona of a personality. Whereas what we're focusing now is on how you could create an authentic personality that's awesome and rocks and still convey the things that you need to convey in order to get success.
Okay. Then, is there, if there's one skill set or mindset that you have that makes you stand out amongst other successful businessmen, what would it be?
Well, one thing that I believe very, very deeply is that when people tell me things are impossible or that they can't happen, I always take it with a very much so in the grain of salt. I look at it from the standpoint that almost anything is possible, even things that have never been done before. And as a result, that'll allow me to think very differently than other people, because now that the boundaries don't exist in the world for almost anything to me, I know there's logical boundaries in terms of science and what have you, but there's also people that prove scientists wrong. I know that there's logical boundaries in terms of business, but I always find that there's a solution for a problem when someone says that a certain kind of business can't operate. I find that there's people who say they're stuck with financial constraints because even the most brilliant people are doing things a certain way and budgeting things a certain way. And then there'll be a new innovative way to get financing or currency or money of some kind that pops up. And as a result of that, I look at things where when someone tells me something can't be done, my first instinct is to prove them wrong and figure out a way if that can be proven. Now, sometimes I'll be proven wrong and it can't be done. You know, I'm not going to be so silly as to say, oh, I could defy gravity and I could fly, so I'm going to jump off a cliff and prove them wrong. You know, I wish we went out without like a parachute or something. But at the same time, I'm going to take huge risks and also huge investments of time to try to prove other concepts wrong, because when you prove concepts wrong, that's when you're going to get innovation. And only when you get true innovation are you going to be able to get success in business, or at least in a business that's new and innovative, if you want to be able to compete.
Okay. So you're someone who shows people like what you believe, like.
Well, I think that what I do is I look internally and I try to find resources online. I spend a lot of time doing research, ton of times doing research on any idea I have, and try to figure out how the business model could work, even when everyone says that business model can't work.
Okay, fantastic.
You know? I mean, to give you an example of things that we've done in the past, people said it's impossible for you to create in-field videos, and I thought it could be impossible, but we had to figure out a way to do it. And we figured out a way to go, because people always said, you're going to go into a bar club with cameras, people are always going to see the cameras, they're going to then not want to be recorded, and that's not a problem anymore. We found a way to get around it, and we do in-field videos all the time. You know, the newest innovation that I'm trying to figure out to work around, which may not be available now, is how to use hologram technology. Like you saw with Tupac at Coachella, I thought it'd be really cool to be able to beam tower to different cities around the world with hologram and have them do seminars. Awesome. Now, I was talking to people today, and they said, oh, it's going to cost several $100,000 to do that. I believe that's not required. I believe that that's what they're doing. They're spending several $100,000 a day for holograms. I believe that there's a cheaper way to do things, and so now I'm looking into ways of doing that.
Fantastic. And yeah, so one thing that I've asked a lot of people many times, successful people, is how do you maximize your focus? Like especially when you don't have pressure to do something, or when you're on a lecture, maybe in Harvard, and it's a very difficult topic and you don't understand. And how do you keep focus there and then try to absorb to maximize what you learn?
Yeah, I mean, at Harvard, for example, the peers I have in my class are very smart. And a lot of the concepts that they talk about, it's not necessarily a lack of focus, it's just that they've done so much research in topics that I haven't done it. And they've kind of spent their many, many years doing that. So they got mastery over these topics. So I can't have a skillful repertoire conversation on certain topics. You know, and certain ones I can. And I can engage. And the ones that I don't have mastery, I'll learn just enough so I can have somewhat of a conversation. And in business, it's the same kind of thing. You know, I'll try something like a new technology or a new way of marketing or new sales, and if I don't have mastery, I'll try to learn it. However, I do look for people that could help me leverage my time so I can focus on those things that leverage my time the most. Also, I try to get anything that could be automated and automate it. And if I don't, and I won't just ignore it completely, I'll go back to it, make sure it's being done properly. If after a certain period of time I see things don't come properly done, I have to retake on those roles and responsibilities, but I want to delegate as much as I can so I can leverage my time to do other things. Those things that are simple and easy to me, whether it's errands or purchasing presents for family on a personal level, or whether it's on a business level, like doing research and calling venues and getting quotes from theaters and hotels and for seminars or other events, or from doing things like booking airplane tickets. I used to do that myself. Even when I was doing my tour around the world, I did it myself, and I have other people doing it. So I have to trust these people that they could do their job really well too. And then I can leverage my time and focus on those things that I know they're not thinking about. Those crazy ideas that I'm thinking about, I could get some people to help me with that. But there's certain ways I look at the world that they're not going to look at the world. They're not going to ask questions of people the same way. And that's where I think I could add really unique value. The way I see things in the world is a little bit crazy. But that craziness allows me to create a competitive advantage and create ideas that allow us to be RSD. I mean, RSD in and of itself shouldn't exist. We said shouldn't have existed 15 years ago. When I told our business plan to attorneys and other people, they thought it was the stupidest idea ever. You know, I from the very beginning believed very confidently that would work. So I look at ideas and I look in my head, does it make sense to me? Do I have a very clear vision and goal of how things are going to work? And the only way I could do that successfully and have accuracy is I have to have a lot of experience in various things, all kinds, from all aspects of business: sales, marketing, finance, HR, technology, everything. I've done that, you know. Ever since I was a kid, I'd look at people that had companies that were very well known as being the most successful companies in the world. You know, I worked with NASA, Payne Weber on Wall Street, UPS, Fritz. I worked with Intel, the governor's office, presidential campaigns, multiple presidential campaigns, multiple governor's campaigns, legislature, for Congress. And I think that by having such a diverse experience, from corporate law to logistics to everything, and just interning, volunteering my time for free, that's where I really got a breadth of experience. I learned all sorts of things. And that's why we created an internship within Real Social Dynamics, because everyone in RSD who wants to get a job with us usually has to do an internship for a significant amount of time so they could learn a particular trade. And even if they've gone to school for it, because most people, they've gone to college that have done an internship with our company. But at the same time, work experience in the real world gets you much more mastery than a theoretical study, even though I appreciate theory in college. I mean, I've been in college for 15 years, even as a CEO.
Well, yeah, thank you for the insight on that. And another thing is, like, how do you deal with burnout? Because this is something very common amongst people that work a lot, studying. I've been in that as well, and it feels terrible.
Yeah.
How did you go about it?
I have as well, many, many times. There's been periods in my life where, when the recession hit, one of the ways I deal with burnout was I ran, literally ran, for like 5 to 15 miles every day, sometimes more.
Yeah, you run, yeah.
And that kind of got my mind to focus on the clarity of what I need to think about, and then I get back to work. Now, I think I ran too much. Now my knees are not the same. I'm older, so my body's not in the same physical position. And I've also injured myself with wearing the wrong gear in some of the races and marathons I've done. So now I prefer easier things like golf. Yeah. Now, golf is another way I do things. So physical activity allows me to focus my mental energy on other things. The other thing that I like is the inspiration I get from going through seminars, educational masterminds, and networking with people that have, people who have respectable skills or respectable stories of field experience that I can network with, because their inspiration inspires me and allows me to have relief. Having mentors also inspires me and gives me that relief and a sensation that I feel like I don't have to have as much stress. Tyler recommends meditation. I don't particularly like meditation because I prefer just to sleep, but sleep, I guess, could be the most close thing I have to meditation.
Sure. I tried a lot of meditation, but I found that the gym helps me 10 times more. Just hit it, and I relax immediately. I don't know, I guess each person is a bit different.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was talking to my golf trainer today. I mean, I've been traveling so much for Harvard. Finally, this semester's over and I have some downtime so I could get back to training. It's really difficult for me because I literally fly back and forth between the West Coast and the East Coast every week, from Las Vegas to Boston every week. And on the weekends, I might fly to Los Angeles or New York, either for RSD headquarters in LA or to work with broader producers in New York.
Okay. And traveling so much around the world, doesn't it become over time like, okay, I have to go to, I don't know, I have to go to Japan, and that's like, but it's like, does it become boring over time, like travel so much? Do you still have that excitement of, okay, I'm going to discover the world, like now that you've seen it already?
Yeah, I love going to new places I've never been to before still. It's not the same where it's like the ecstatic first time experience, but it's still very enjoyable. I was in India and Prague this week, and Turkey, and it was very fun. And these are all places I've been to before. But I was able to show my wife these places because she's never been to any of these three places before. And so I love that ability to share new places. But I mean, I've been to 110 countries. I recommend everyone.
That's why I'm asking you.
I recommend everyone to travel a lot. I remember there was a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. She said that, you know, although most people, they just live in their country, they don't travel, especially if you're an American. But if you don't travel outside your country, it's kind of like reading the first few words on the first page of a book that has many chapters. And it's an awesome book. Want to get inspiration, something that could inspire you business-wise and personally, and travel the world, see things.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, and it changes your perspective as well a lot. I mean, I see things differently everywhere I go in the world. Like if I'm in Europe, I start to see things from one perspective. I'm in Latin America, I'm a different person. And that's how it's been forever.
Yeah, there's a lot of businesses that aren't allowed to exist in America. They're too edgy. There's also a lot of businesses in America that aren't allowed to exist in Asia because they're too edgy. Yet you go take these edgy businesses and combine them together and make it work. But you won't know what these businesses are unless you travel. And that's helped me. It's also allowed me to understand different cultures and mindsets and how people relate to each other better as well. It also gets you with some awesome stories and adventures.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, the best one is when things go wrong, you get lost somewhere in the middle of the night. That's, you know, that wouldn't happen to you. I mean, that's when you're way out of your comfort zone, when your mind really starts to think and you get totally focused and you start to resolve problems in different languages. I mean, I've been there, and you know, when you look back, you learn so much from this experience.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that in Latin America and Europe for my travels. Nowadays, I have so little time to focus on things like that, where you just have chill downtime. So I actually have very organized things. I used to organize my schedule when I was traveling so that every waking hour of my life, whether it was a meal or a shopping or whether going to a certain tourist attraction or an activity or a special event, every hour of my waking life was organized. And a lot of my business is organized like that. I have meetings throughout the day organized by my assistants. However, nowadays, I just try to organize one event per day, 2 maximum. If I organize more than that, things just get canceled because things just pop up, you know. So if, for example, I'm going to go this weekend to New York, and I'm going to go to the Tony Awards. So that day, that's all I'm doing. That's all I have scheduled. Yeah. Random things will pop up. I don't know what they are, but I'm just organizing one thing. And then the day before that, I organized a meeting with Brandon Carter. You know, and I don't have anything else organized other than hanging out with Brandon Carter. Well, actually, no, I have 2 things, because I also have a behind-the-scenes tour of Indecent, the musical. So I'm gonna see that. Oh, actually, I'm not going to the 20 Awards this weekend. This weekend is the Obie Awards. Sorry, Obie Awards is taking place on Monday. No, Tony's is next month. I'm going to that also.
New York is awesome. Like there's so many events going on there. Like
yeah, there's so many events. I mean, yeah, if I'm lucky because I'm living in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is at the point where it's about to turn into a big booming business city where things get really crazy. But right now, it's still like a small town feel. Because although the Strip is crazy and there's parties every night, I live about 10 minutes away. So I was at the Strip today. You know, I went to the spa and I had meetings with people on the Strip today. But, you know, it's a business day, so I have meetings and stuff like that. But when I want to relax and rest, I get off the Strip, and it's a very normal city. And if I live in a city like LA or New York, I know for a fact because I know so many people. I mean, you can see my YouTube channel. I know so many people. Yeah. I just have constant meetings all the time, which is awesome because it leads a fast life and a lot of learning, but it's just very, very fast.
It's strange for an outsider like me to hear that Las Vegas is a normal city, but
yeah. Well, there's over 100 golf courses.
Going around it.
There's a lot of people who just like to chill out here in Las Vegas in addition to partying. Most locals don't gamble or go to the casinos. It's kind of assumed that you don't.
Okay. Well, interesting. Yeah, so another thing I wanted to ask you, because I also plan to have children in the future, you're a man with a lot of skills, and you obviously have like a strong personality, and those are things that oftentimes you acquire as a kid. So what would you think are the things that your parents did right? Like, you know, if you look back, you look at how your parents raised you, like, what would these things be that they did well?
Well, I was very lucky to have parents that stayed together. They've been married now my entire life and more. And I'm planning to have kids next year, twins, one boy, one girl.
Wow,
and I think that what I'd like to do is raise my children very similarly, you know, with a healthy family, because my whole childhood I grew up with feeling like I had a support network, a backup plan. Mm-hmm. You know, I knew that no matter what, my family was there to support me, not just my parents, but everyone in my family, which was awesome. I think it's very important to try to culture that kind of environment. And I thought that all families were like that because, you know, most of my time was just hanging out with my family. But as I started to get deeper friendships and get to know their family, I realized there's a lot of broken homes, a lot of broken families. So you got to be careful about that. You know, I think that, you know, you could still have a supportive family in a broken home. It just requires a lot more work, twice as much work. I think a lot of the mindsets that my parents gave me was due to the fact they supported me so much, even when they seemed like they didn't. My dad would always tell me that I can't do certain things because he thought it was too difficult. Mm-hmm. But if I told him I really wanted to do it, he would do whatever it took to help me prove him wrong.
Okay.
I thought that was pretty cool, you know.
Sure.
To give even small examples, you know. My small examples would be I would get a lot of food on my dinner plate. And my dad would then tell me, you got too much food in your dinner plate. My mom would say, prove your dad wrong and finish it.
Yeah.
You know, but that would go to everything. You know, even real social dynamics itself. You know, my dad told me that as a business that he saw no viable chance of being successful. Mm-hmm. You know, but at the same time, you know, he was always there to support my company, and, you know, he never invested in my company, but he was always there to be a supporter, to be like my cheerleader, to help make sure that, you know, he would tell me, oh, you can't do this, but action speaks louder than words. So sure. He would do things like when he was president of DeVry, he would give us a free seminar room space. Mm-hmm. You know, he would help me out with travel hookups that he had from, you know, being the president of a very large company, much larger than almost any other company.
Okay. And, you know, well, you say that you went to board school, like away from home. And I don't know how long you were there, but I suppose in that time the internet wasn't like as good as it is today. There was no social media and anything. How did you keep the bond strong to your family and to your core?
I flew back and forth. So
Okay.
when I went to boarding school, I had an academic scholarship, and we had boarding schools are very expensive. The boarding school I go to now, the boarding school I went to now, its tuition is like 60 to 120,000 a year. It's very expensive, but it was with children of some of the most successful business families in the world, and also people that are going to make it in life. And it's not necessarily I stayed in contact with a lot of these people, because I didn't. I just stayed in contact with very few. But the success mindsets, the people I surrounded myself with, pushed me. Now my family, when it came out to study time, they'd fly out there to visit me. They'd even help me study. And if I wanted to see my family, they would fly me back and forth. They would save up frequent flyer flights on what was known as TWA and give me free first class upgrade flights, and it was pretty cool. So I flew back quite a lot, and also on the weekends I was lucky because some of my father's family friends, they were very, very rich. They had a house built up a mountain, from the bottom of the mountain going up the mountain, a very big house, but they're one of the richest families in the world, and they're good childhood friends of my father. He was born very poor. He created a mastermind group, a study group in elementary school. And that elementary school mastermind group and study group stayed in touch their entire life and became the president of the Philippines, the governor of the Philippines, president of Heineken, the managing partner of Goldman Sachs, the founder of Citi Funds, all sorts of companies. My dad on DeVry, and it was pretty awesome. And I think that old friends are super important, but I guess I was lucky because of that family. I was able to visit them on the weekend and stay with them when I needed to get away from things and just relax. Not like it's kind of like even though it's a boarding school in the middle of a suburban area, because you're living with 1,000 other people or so, you're always invited to things. There's always things to do. So it was nice to decompress, and then my family would come visit them. They would stay with them, and then I would have a way to stay in touch. But I mean, also most of my family's in Sacramento. We had like several dozen people in my family, extended family in Sacramento. So we'd have dinner parties every week with both sides of my family, my mom's side and my dad's side. And there's so many of them, we'd break it up into small groups sometimes, in addition to large parties. I mean, we'd have some parties as many as 55 people. I remember I was at a birthday party for my grandmother, and we had over 100 people attend. So I had a lot of people in my family, and we all stayed in touch.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah, I ask you because I also have like half Bolivian, half Swiss. My family split it. I always had this thing like my father living in Europe, my mother in South America, and that staying in touch was so difficult. I would also fly back and forth, but it was like at that time it was so expensive and so difficult. Nowadays it's much easier.
Yeah, for me, family is the most important thing, and I view Owen as family in my business. And I, treat my closest friends as family as well.
Nice. And then, you're going to have children, you told me. So maybe you're thinking already, like, how would you help your children find what are the core values? What do they want to do in life without like putting too much pressure on them? Like, forcing them like since the age of 3 to be programmers, just because you want them to succeed. Like, how do you go about it?
My dad wanted me to be a computer engineer,
Yeah.
and I had to take his classes. He was a professor when I was a kid, from age 12 onwards.
How did you feel about it? Was it perhaps?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It gave me skills. I learned a lot about technology, and a lot of those skills in technology I use in RSD for website management of tech teams for software and stuff like that. I wasn't forced to do any particular thing, but I was given a lot of options. I know it can be frustrating for my parents.
Okay.
I can't say that I have a lot of experience as a parent. I just have the knowledge of how my parents treated me.
Yeah, I know, I understand, but that's what I'm trying to find out because
Sure.
I've seen many of your videos in the program, and I can. My idea is that your parents, like since you were a kid, they would make you study a lot. They would put pressure on you, and I
Definitely.
find out like
my parents would make me study a lot because they viewed education as being so important. They dedicated their entire careers to it. My mom is a teacher, my dad is a professor, then becoming a university president. A company that owns multiple universities. And being from a background from that also led me, now I'm in education too, just in the seminars and conventions online.
Yeah.
So they had a huge impact on me. Now I think that a lot of it came from the fact that, when I wanted to learn from schools fail everyone. You can't learn everything in schools. When I was in school, I would have my parents to help tutor me outside of school, even before I attended school and outside of school, before school and after school. If you look at other countries, like the Philippines or countries where you have a school where you take classes in one language and then the classes in English, they'll double the amount of education. Yet in America, you have half of that for our students and expect to be the best. Now, America has industries and companies that are the best in the world, and its economy is a global dominance. They have the best weapon systems. They have more political power. Allows them to leverage themselves, but you'll meet really smart people from around the world because they have awesome education. We have some of the best universities in the world, that's for sure. But at the same time, I think that you can't learn most of what you need to learn in university. My father's secretary, she went to Harvard, had a master's degree from Harvard. And now she spent much of her time spending scheduling and opening his mail. It's not necessarily the university you go to that gets you the education. It may introduce you to peers that are going to hustle and make it in life. It'll be part of your network. I built a massive network, combination of university and elsewise. I think that my parents taught to me a lot of these values, of how important it was to get an education. They focused a lot on my career first before having a social life. So most of my childhood was pretty much like a big social thing. It wasn't like I was having big parties all the time. I remember I did have elementary school years. My parents rented out the video game arcade for all my classmates. So I guess that was a big party, but it wasn't like what other people did, where they had a lot of regular social circles and sleepovers all the time, and friends to hang out with like every day. I think a lot of it also do with because my school I went to wasn't in my neighborhood; it was farther away, and also because I studied more. I was so hardcore in terms of time efficiency because I believed that my childhood time was so important to focus on the direction I was going to go to in life, that every aspect of my life was focused on that little competitive edge to make myself better. I knew that very deep and early on. I remember I would wear a button-down shirt like I have now, but button all the way down, and a t-shirt underneath it. And I might be wearing a hoodie or jacket. And to save just seconds, I would take off all three at the same time if I'm changing. If I was going to put my shoes on, I'd always keep them tied. It's little things like that. But it's like every aspect of my life. If I was going to school and I was walking between classes, I'd be reading my homework while I'm walking.
Wow. I used to do that in university.
Yeah. If I'm in a car driving somewhere, instead of talking to my dad, I'll be looking at things up on the dictionary and looking at schoolwork and doing school in the car. Like every second for me counted. And it wasn't necessarily the most fun, but it gave me a hustler mentality. And I took that into the business world where as an entrepreneur to build a business, if you don't have that, you go out of business. That's why most companies will go out of business. I've seen people who've tried to make a very happy business and make it lackadaisical, like relax, they could chill on the beach, and you know, they might even have a company. I know companies who are, her whole company is to try to sell people that that's what they're doing, but they're not. They're lying.
Okay, I've seen a lot of them. Yeah, thanks for confirming me that it's a lie.
And even if they are, they're not making the money that they claim they're making. They may be making that in revenue, but in the expenses and the losses of their business, they deteriorates and disappears.
Okay.
So I mean, if you look at businesses, 99% of companies go out of business in 5 years, 90% in 3 years. And if you want to stay in business as long as we have since 2002, you got to have a team of people that are with a similar mentality of what you're doing. Not just one, not just you, but a lot of people. You have to have a positive attitude while doing it, even through the stress.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And well, and then one last question. You know, like, how do you convince your wife to do things that she doesn't necessarily like to do, like for like playing video games?
My wife loves video games, and I love them too. In fact, that's one of the things we connected with.
My wife to play video games with me. Like, help me out with that.
Yeah. So yeah, my life is revolves mostly around my wife. We play golf together. We go to the spa together. We video games together. We travel together. You know, I found somebody who I wanted to do things with, and that's why I'm with her. I've dated many girls who didn't have the same interests as me. I've also dated girls that had the same interests as me that I didn't feel like I connected with in the same way. Now, there'll be things that, you know, my wife doesn't like. Like I would say that I want to go to a certain show or a certain event. But I mean, a relationship oftentimes has you doing things to help the other person in the relationship, and to find a passion and what you like and what you do in your free time defines you in a lot of ways. And so finding love through her eyes and through your eyes, and sharing why you have that love and passion. You could inspire that person to do those things that you really like to do. Now there's also taste. Like, I mean, I like certain kinds of hot and spicy food. My wife doesn't. You can't force that upon them. But in terms of a partner, as long as you could get along and you have love, I think you could be fine.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, yeah, we run marathons together, and that means a lot for me.
Cool. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I used to do running with my wife a lot also. We'd run for miles together. We also did marathon together in Las Vegas.
Well, thank you very much for your time. And I mean, I wrote down so many questions, and I tried to narrow them down to those that you know, that I found more, that I just wanted to know more. And I know they're a bit mixed up in the topics, but there are so many things I want to know, and I didn't want to get too technical in details. I just wanted to, you know, just talk with you.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. I mean, I think that the ability to use interviews as mentoring sessions and sharing them with people on YouTube is a lot of fun. And it's not like I'm going to be doing this forever. So it's kind of a rare opportunity because I have a real passion for this right now. My goal is to do this show and work with as many people as I can. And then I'm going to be creating other shows and other projects in the future. So yeah, I think it's really, really cool that we're able to have this opportunity to do this. And I hope that other people take advantage as well.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Awesome.
And I also wanted to ask you to send greets to Tyler, because I've seen some videos of him that inspired me in the past a lot as well. And you know, that's good work.
Cheers.
Doing in general.
Awesome. Thank you.